Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about how to create digital products that sell in 2025. Spoiler alert, it involves AI, but not in the way that you might think. Today I'm sitting down with Stephanie Pereira, the COO of Astral. My name is Zack Kinslow. I'm the growth marketer at Astral. We're going to dig into all sorts of things around digital products creation and how to rapidly experiment and figure out what sells in your space without a ton of effort. Now, why should you listen to us on this topic? Well, Stephanie brings years of experience at companies like Kickstarter in the creator economy space, where she oversaw a community of 100,000 creators and guiding their product launches. We actually met back when we worked on a course together between Kickstarter and Skillshare, which is an online learning platform for creative upskilling. Me personally, I've produced over 100 digital products and online courses in my career with the likes of Damon John, Alexa Von Tobel, Greta Van Riel, the co-founders of Unbounce and BigCommerce, just to name a few. And I've generated upwards of $100 million in revenue as a direct result of these digital products. So in short, between Stephanie and myself, we've experienced a thing or two in this arena. I'm excited to sit down with Stephanie today to chat all things digital products, how people are using AI and automation to rapidly experiment and validate their ideas so that you go into it knowing with some likelihood that it's going to work. And of course, diversifying your revenue streams while freeing up your time to focus on what you do best. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Hey, Stephanie, let's talk digital products. Really just interested in talking about what does the state of digital products look like today, and what's the new way to create digital products that sell in 2025, how AI is impacting that. But anyway, let's start with the easy stuff. What do we mean when we say digital products? Because I feel like that word gets thrown around a lot.
That's a great question and a good place to start from. I know in our own efforts to talk about our product and what it can do and the benefits it can provide, I'll throw around that digital product word. And some people stare at me with their eyes crossed when I say that. I could tell it's just totally not landing. And then there's, of course, others who are like, yeah, they're in the game, they get it. So a digital product is a thing. It's exactly what it sounds like. It is an asset that you distribute via digital means, and it's usually a PDF, so maybe an ebook or a workbook. For in ed tech world, your background, it can be lesson plans, so anything that's like a digital resource. In the creator economy, a digital product can be a mini guide. It can be, a lot of times we see one sheets. Our friends over at Gumroad have like built a whole business on this, which we love to see. So it could be recipe downloads. Like a lot of times people will just bundle up their 10 most popular recipes from Instagram last year and bundle it up as a digital product that, in exchange for an email or a few bucks, they can download it as like a nice little packet. I know Caro Chambers, who's one of the world's biggest Substackers. I think she once said she could fill a stadium with her subscribers. One of the benefits for a premium subscription, which is $3 a month, is that you can access her recipes as PDFs as a digital product. So it's really just taking anything that you can find on the web and just repackaging it into like a nice formatted object. That's how I would describe it.
Oh, cool. Would you consider courses like video courses as well,
So,
or mostly just sort of PDF written
yeah,
assets?
I think that's the thing too. It's like a product. So you're packaging it up for people to either sell or access in exchange for an email. So yes, courses for sure fit in there. And a lot of times we've seen a lot of, the top creators and course creators taking the skyscraper scraper approach, where they've built a course that's jam-packed with lots of different kinds of products within it. So it might be that they have their signature course, but then within it, they have mini lessons. So those, you could think of those as products. They have a lot of worksheets, all sorts of things that people can sort of tangibly access and feel like they're getting something substantive in exchange for their participation and the value they're putting in.
Cool. I like that. Yeah. In my world of marketing, I once heard a digital product or lead magnet described as an ethical bribe for your contact details. Uh, create something that's high value that really helps people from an educational standpoint, and it's valuable enough that they're willing to give you their email address or a couple bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, my husband has on his website, there's a lead magnet as soon as you get there that he has a digital cookbook that's created actually by his community. So he gives it away for free. It's a community made product edited by his team. And it's one of the most popular ways that he's been able to grow his list. People love the cookbook. I've tabled with him at events and people will talk about the cookbook and how valuable and helpful it's been. People are very happy to offer up an email in exchange for something like that.
Yeah, love that. I'd love to read the cookbook sometime. I might go sign up. Why is it so important for people to be able to offer digital products to their audiences? And I'm specifically thinking around the industries that we work with a lot, media, publishing, creators and authors. Why is it so critical today to be able to create and innovate with these types of digital products beyond what they're already doing?
Yeah, as people come to you out of curiosity, you want to sort of strengthen the ties of that relationship, and one of the ways you do that is providing value. In exchange for that attention people are giving you, you're giving them lots of value back, which is why they're opening your newsletter, following you online. So for authors, like a great example of a digital product like we've talked to our customers about is maybe they have a brand new book coming out and they want to drive pre-orders. And so, for example, one of our customers, Gretchen Rubin, she always does like a discussion guide or she does a sample chapter of her book. She does a whole bunch of incentives around that pre-order period. So it's like, show me that you did the pre-order and you get this thing. And then I think for people with online followings, it's a very like tried and true path where you sort of like you identify your niche, the topic that people are, like, you're reaching people with. They're coming to you, they're following you, and you want to make sure that you're bringing them deeper into your world. And so by delivering a digital product to them, you're able to get them to sign up for your newsletter, open that newsletter, and know that they're going to keep coming back to your feed and to your channels and get value from it.
Would you say that there's like some pressure happening in media industries and those sort of mini media brands to diversify revenue? Just because, like, I feel like ad dollars are just becoming less and less the main driver for a typical publication. And I don't know, I've just heard from people that they're getting this pressure from above to constantly experiment with new digital products, but they're like already keeping the balls in the air on their editorial calendar and
Right.
managing everything always. And now they have to also do this new job, which takes a lot of time and effort typically to now create ebooks and Substack newsletters and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What's your take on the landscape in media?
Yeah, I mean, beyond our customer base, Astral has interviewed hundreds of people. You and I, of course, our careers have probably talked to, right, tens of thousands of people who are building in this space, and everyone talks about it as a hamster wheel. This sort of constant demand for growth and engagement and eyeballs. The creator economy, people talk about burning out and feeling exhausted, chasing like a brand sponsorship. It's like it's few and far between if you actually, it's a small percentage of people that achieve that. And which is why the creator economy conversation has tilted so heavily into owning your own channels, owning your own products. And so in our case, like for example, we love to talk about our Dan Harris case study where, Dan is an author. He has a very successful podcast. When he launched his Substack, actually another way of thinking of digital products, of course, is a Substack newsletter.
Hmm.
And so when he launched his Substack, he came to us to say, is there an easy way, to your point, Zach, about like you've got a million things going on. Oh God, we're launching a new channel. Is there a way to basically repackage those weekly podcast episodes as a digital product that we can offer to premium subscribers? And the good news was yes. So with Astral, they were able to create a very simple template, which they call a cheat sheet. And it's as simple as importing their fully baked audio file into Astral, boom, applying the template, and it generates the cheat sheet, which they're then able to send out to their premium subscribers, which appears on their Substack. If you go to danharris.com and look at his Substack, it's also an upsell, right? It's like you start reading the article and then it's like, subscribe to get access to the cheat sheet. So it's a lot of value. I do want to add one other thing because you just sparked it in my brain is what I also just talked about was going cross-channel. So there's a lot of pressure to go cross-channel. If you do have a successful podcast, people are like, oh, well, now you need a Substack. That's like a very typical thing. And as you pointed out, sort of saying like, yeah, but who's going to do that work is, I think, a stressor. So knowing that you have an easy way to do that cross-channel expansion, open up new opportunities for ad revenue, because if you do launch a successful newsletter, there's another place you can put ad dollars, right? So I think it's thinking of cross-channel expansion and taking the sort of production lift out of the story.
And how is technology changing the way that digital products are created in the year ahead? Because it used to, like as you indicated, it used to take a lot high cost of production, a lot of time. I mean, I've had experiences where I'm like, I'd love to turn these 6 interviews into an ebook to drive leads, and I just didn't have budget to do it, and it would have taken weeks to write a book. But yeah, how is technology changing that?
Yeah. I love when you talk about that use case, the idea of being able to take many things and turn it into one substantive thing and doing it super easily. That's definitely part of it. I think synthesis, as we all know, is AI's superpower, is like reading a bunch of unstructured information and organizing it for you. And that has sort of been the guiding principle always with Astral and how we've designed the content remix work. But I think what I'm really excited about, and which we've already kind of built into the product in a few ways, and you'll continue to see more from us, is taking that synthesis out into your channels. So looking at your Instagram channels, helping you figure out what were your most popular posts, like looking at the engagement on those posts, what kind of things were people commenting or asking about? Basically saying like, all right, if in the past year you posted 1,000 times, like what are the opportunities? What are the content opportunities there? And then also, can you make that content for me? So this, which is, as you know better than me, is so key to marketing. It's like meeting people at the right time with the thing they actually want. So rather than just being like, which product should I make today? Instead, it's looking at, all right, what is my audience excited about and already asking for, and how, can I deliver it to them?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you bring up a good point about validating the demand and figuring out what people are asking for, which I think is half the battle when it comes to digital products is validation. Um, not like so many people I think come to me and they're like, oh, I want to make a course or I want to make a thing based on what I'm excited about. And that's only like a portion of it. I think yes, it should be something you're passionate about and something you're a practitioner in, but it really needs to be something that solves a pain point or answers a demand for your audience. And it can't just be like, I mean, it can't just be art. I don't think
Yeah.
art should always be just what the artist wants. I think that's what makes art art and not commercial. But digital products, I feel like need to be painkiller, solving some sort of problem and figuring out, as you said, from your audience's questions or comments, like what are people asking for, and then serve it up to them. And then the hard part then becomes how do I make that thing without spending tons and tons of time? Because people always say to me, like, well, what if I spend 3 months making this thing and it just doesn't work? And I will have regretted all that time spent. So how are we speeding up that process for people so that they can experiment quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just broke it down really well. So there's like the assessing the demand, defining your niche, who are your people, which we aren't quite doing yet, and I foresee us starting to do. And then there's the production piece of it all. So you figured out that painkiller, and now you're like, okay, now I got to make the thing. And that's the part that we already do. So when Jack and I, Astral CEO, when we talk about this stuff, when we're doing, demo calls or sales calls or talking to customers, the thing we always sort of say to folks is, you have the content, right? Maybe it's like, for it's a consultant, you're probably recording all of your consulting calls. If you're a YouTube creator, you have a bunch of YouTube videos, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have a bunch of unstructured expert information at your fingertips. And so the thing that Astral can do is then help you package that up into a full course, a 30-day challenge, a worksheet. So anything from like a very small digital product that you can offer for free just to test the waters to see like, oh, does my audience actually want this thing? To something more fully baked, like a fully fledged course. And we can do that. So we de-risk it for you by taking the production lift off your plate.
And how long does that take typically for, let's say, a bunch of videos turned into a digital product?
So how long does it take? It really could take minutes. So if you know what your format is, Zach, you often talk about if you have a swipe file of proven formats, things that have already made you money before, it's as easy as cloning that format, which takes 30 seconds, turning it into a template, and then applying that template to your existing content. So we're talking minutes. If you don't have an existing template, there's some work in sort of developing it, but we have lots of cheat sheets and and shortcuts for creating templates for you. But we do have a long form course creation workflow. We haven't made it available through the product yet, but it exists and it's awesome. And it takes, I think, the whole thing start to finish. We can run, books worth of content through it. And the workflow, 30 minutes later will spit out a 50,000 word transcript for you to use to record your next course.
Oh, wow. What's an example of someone who's used the more, I guess, robust output, like a mini course or a book or like sort of a meaty, tangible digital product? I know, I'm sure you have some good examples.
I think the best example is Gretchen Rubin. Her team has been using Astral like quite heavily, which has been awesome to see. And one thing is they were gearing up to launch the 2025 edition of their habit building course based on her book, Better Than Before, and all of her habit building methodologies. I think there's like 21 of them, or strategies. She calls them like 21 strategies for habit change, I think. As they were gearing up to launch that course, one thing they wanted to do is take that skyscraper approach to course building. So rather than launch a bunch of different courses, they said, all right, let's just double down on this proven winner. And as part of that work, they made a bunch of library resources that take each of those 21 habits and make mini modules based on them that people can self-serve and access during the course to sort of self-educate or get up to speed if they want to sort of deep dive. And that was we basically took Better Than Before. There's like 60 or so articles on her blog, and then I think a handful of other resources. And they were able to, I mean, actually, this was one of our, I think it's a testimonial on our website. So someone from Gretchen's team was like, had been slaving away doing this herself, going through all the content, writing it, drafting it. And then suddenly within minutes, she was able to be like, create the module for this habit change strategy for me. And it fully created it. And then she had a very good draft written in the style and tone of Gretchen, which is key. So that's the other piece of the minimizing the editing time.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Can you say more about the style and tone control within Astral?
Yeah, so we just released our new global brand voice settings, which is really exciting. You can create a sort of default brand voice that is applied blanket across all of your Astral remixes. You can also create other brand voices. So let's say, for example, one of our customers is Kim Scott, the author of Radical Candor, and she has many authors on her blog. So she could have like a Kim brand voice, she can have a Jason brand voice, she can have a Brandy brand voice. And that way, as they're creating content, they could apply the appropriate voice to the different content. So previously, we had that baked in at the template level. So the way that Gretchen's team was doing it was we'd sort of identified this is the way that Gretchen Rubin writes and talks. This is like what her audience expects from her. We kind of Astral basically can analyze any piece of content to understand tone and intent and style, write a brand voice and custom instruction for that, and then apply that brand voice to whatever it's generating. So this has been key for our customers. It means whereas maybe they've been using GPT before to do an initial draft, they'd have to basically we just heard this from a customer yesterday. They'd have to rewrite the entire thing to match how they actually want to write on their website. Whereas with the brand voice settings on Astral, you're getting like Gretchen herself said, maybe this isn't exactly how I would write it, but this certainly is in line with how we show up for our audience and someone who deeply understands my body of work, which is a heck of a lot better than GPT.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really powerful. What are some common mistakes people are making when it comes to digital products, and how can we help them overcome those? I mean, you did mention like the cost of production and sort of the wasted time spent maybe heading in the wrong direction. Obviously there's like doing nothing and not experimenting at all.
That's the number one sin, doing nothing.
Is it? Yeah. I mean, you talk with a lot of people, so I'm curious, like what are the common mistakes people are making?
You and I talk together, sort of, there's bucket one of like knowing, like understanding your audience and what they want, right? Like making sure you're delivering a thing that people like need and want. Bucket two is the production piece of it. And bucket three is making sure people know about it. I think that there's sins across all of those things. I think sometimes people make the thing they're excited about making. They don't take that extra step to say like, all right, who actually is my audience? You know, what is that painkiller? Great example of that is, again, going back to the example of my husband's company. He knows, because he that makes products for sourdough bakers. Like, he understands the pain point of sourdough bakers is making your starter do the thing it's supposed to do. And so the first thing that they ever did was make a thing that makes it easier for making your starter do the thing it's supposed to do, which is why people constantly are downloading that cookbook, because it's like, oh my God, I can't figure this out. So one is understanding the thing. Two is then the production piece of it. So I think because it always feels like a lot of work, I think, what is it? My son, actually, my 9-year-old son said this to me all the time. What is it? Perfection is the enemy of good, or what is the saying? You know it.
Yeah, is it great is the enemy of good or something like?
Something like that. Basically, people don't do anything because they like obsess over getting it perfect rather than just shipping the thing and like seeing what happens. I think you and I, having worked in, tech startups, understand that you just have to constantly put things out there, get the data, understand it, and then iterate, iterate, iterate. Which, if it takes a lot of time to do things, I could see why you wouldn't do that. So this is, a lot of what we're doing with Astral is like, how do we de-risk that for you? How do we make it easy for you to do a lot of quick tests? And then the third bucket is never telling anyone about it, which is why a lot of the templates in Astral are around that content marketing piece. So how do we make sure that you're showing up, not just making the product? And this, I actually get this from my Kickstarter days, because the primary part of my job was just like coaching people and launching successful campaigns. Kickstarter doesn't make money if people don't get to the finish line. And so it'd be one thing to launch your thing, but if you don't 3 to 4 times a day tell people about it, it's not going to get funded. And so being out, like, thinking about how do you create the thing and then create the assets that go along with making the thing or promoting the thing at the same time, like basically considering that all as one thing. I think that's a mistake people make. They make the thing and then they take a breath and then they're like, oh God, now I have to promote the thing. Whereas I think you should actually do it all at once. I think you should make the thing and make your plan for telling the world about it all at the same time. And then, of course, you're going to iterate and learn as you go. But at least, again, with Astral, the nice thing is you can do that super easily. And even if the thing you made is wrong, it's not like a huge cost to dump all the promotional stuff, because you just click buttons and 30 seconds later, you have the new content ready for you, drafted for you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm picturing like take a bunch of past content because creators and authors and media brands are all sitting on this gold mine of existing content. Take a bunch of your existing best stuff, transform it in a minute into some sort of digital product, and then take the digital product as a source content, and then generate the 10 different promo assets to start telling the world about it. And all that could take just a couple minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got the
Yeah.
wheels turning.
I think actually that's when you and I met, was we did that Skillshare course. Like, that was, I'd always be like, okay, make your campaign and also make your 30-day timeline for telling people about the campaign. Like, I think similarly, you have to do those two things hand in hand. Like, what is your goal? Who are you trying to reach? How are you going to tell them about it? It should all be one project.
Yeah, agreed. What's your number one tip for getting started, just taking action on creating digital products in 2025?
One tip?
It could be 3 tips, but
I mean, I have two, like, figure out what you should be making. Actually, a great example, I know Dan Harris's team, shortly after they launched their Substack, it was like a big success. They immediately had like 40,000 subscribers. Like, people were like, they love him and they want to show up for him. And as they were planning 2025, they sent out a survey. They just said, like, what do you want more of? What do you want less of? What do you hate? What do you love? They kind of just asked all the questions and they got several hundred responses. So it's like, if you can figure out how you can take the temperature of your audience, that's number one. And then number two, just start experimenting. So I know about this survey that Dan's team did is because we were discussing it and I was like, okay, I'm gonna understand this. I'm gonna use AI to analyze this thing and see what the opportunities are. And then here's like 5 experiments you can try with Astral right now. Like, you could make more mini library content pieces. Easy. People want more walking meditations from you. You've done those on your podcast, like, let's just generate them in Astral. So it's easy to, I would say, don't get stuck in the analysis paralysis of it all. So ask the question, do the synthesis layer, use AI. AI is your friend to help you do that. You can use anything. If you want to keep it proprietary, use Astral. And then once you've done that synthesis layer, start churning out stuff and testing it against your audience to see what they're excited about and build from there.
Love it. Anything else you wanted to share on this topic? Trying to think of a closing question, because we could probably rap about digital products all day.
I know. Well, I'm curious. I actually love to hear from you. What would you recommend people do for digital products in 2025?
I mean, now I'm a believer, so I would say play with Astral as well, and start the free trial, because there's no limit on time, and just mess around with it. But once the aha moment for me was I could take a bunch of interviews I conducted that are available on YouTube, and just plugging it in and hitting a button, and it synthesized it into a book, into an email newsletter. I could even make that into a mini course structure in terms of the content plan. Like that was pretty powerful for me, the many to one synthesis
Yep.
instead of one to one, and then pulling out the key takeaways and learning methodologies and synthesizing that into a structure that's cohesive is very interesting to me. So giving the tools a shot, especially Astral, not to hard sell, but big aha moment for me, it was being able to see what the tool can do in about a minute. And I think pain validation is always important. As you said, you could survey people, you can use SEO tools to figure out what people are literally Googling. Like I love to use Ahrefs. So I run a workshop where it starts with human brainstorming, and then second goes into the tools and the data analysis, and then third, back to creativity and humanity, with angling those topics into potential like packaged up positions. But I ran one the other week with the director friend, because he wants to make a course, and he's like, I love filmmaking. I love making short films with my kids. It's like a big hobby for his as a director. But I don't know if anyone's asking for that.
Mm.
So we went through a whole, we ordered some sushi and got a whiteboard and went through a whole workshopping process of figuring out like, okay, let's fill this entire board of potential ideas that people might be looking up, or pain points or questions or how-tos, and just total brainstorm based on what we know of the potential audience, and then run that through Ahrefs, which is an SEO keyword research tool that'll spit out in a very organized way your keyword difficulty and competition, as well as your estimated search volume. So literally how many people every month are looking up this phrase, and then I color code that, see what jumps off the page. We're looking for lots of green. And again, it's all relative per industry, but you want to look for like decent volume and low-ish difficulty. And those are prioritized hot topics that you should think about more and consider. And then take that keyword. Let's say it's, we did this with Foundr Magazine, and one of the things that jumped off the page was how to run Facebook ads, literally how to run Facebook ads. We didn't want to jump over the obvious and try to get too cute and clever and call it some weird name. The course is called How to Run Facebook Ads. And it blew up. It's with Nick
Not
Shackelford.
surprised, because
He's
that is a
genius.
dark art.
Yeah, the guy spent $100 million in ads very effectively. So he's genius. But you make the product, and as you pointed out, now the job begins with packaging it up and promoting it. So part of that is figuring out your positioning and your demand. And people were literally wanting to know how to run Facebook ads. So that's what we gave to them in that case. And similarly with my friend, the director, we were trying to come up with like, what's the thing people are looking up that actually will work? Because he was like, my biggest fear is I spent 3 to 6 months producing a thing, it doesn't sell, and I just
Right.
wasted all this time. He's like, I need to diversify my income.
Right.
He's well, his director rate is he commands a high fee, but he wants like a little bit more of that passive revenue type of thing going
Yeah.
on.
I
So
mean, that's the dream of courses, right?
yeah, so I digress a little bit, but yeah, so number one tip is get started experimenting with Astral. Number two is validate. So
Validate,
whatever
right.
process you use, figure out if there's demand, if people are actually wanting this thing. And that could be done a number of ways: survey, keyword research tools, Google Trends, combining some data, some like actual data that's out there with your human brain as well, and figuring out like, okay, how do I angle that into like a packaged up offer?
Yeah, I will say that another way, that people have done this stuff is the fake front door testing, which I think was popularized by Tim Ferriss with his like 4-Hour Workweek book cover story that everyone loves to tell. We did that with an initial version of Astral, where we basically like put up a marketing site, put it in a bunch of free newsletters and had a bunch of inbound interest. I would say key for that was we added a survey to that inbound, so it was like sign up for the wait list, but then we also were like, what are you hoping this product will do for you? Because we hadn't built it yet. And we got so much good data, which I used both. I mean, as much as an AI booster I am, I did use AI to synthesize the data and like get some key takeaways, but I also just used my human brain and like read all the responses and did my own pattern matching to it was, this was in 2023, so the conversation was quite different, but it was really helpful as we sort of clarified our own product building direction because, building a digital product is expensive. So you want to make sure you're building the right thing, which
Yeah.
is sort of a good way to do it too.
Yeah, totally. Love that. Well, this has been great. I feel like I could talk to you all day about digital products and ed tech and creator economy, but we do have to wrap there. So we learned a lot about how to create and validate and package up your digital products, how to experiment quickly in terms of lowering that cost of production and just getting stuff out there and starting to learn, and also diversifying your channels and income streams through the use of digital products and AI transformation tools like Astral. So where can people learn more about Astral and start taking that action?
Yes, excellent question. So definitely head on over to our website, tryastral.com. Smash that sign up button. I don't think that's the right context, but you get what I'm saying. It's a free trial. It's not time-based, it's usage-based. So, you can pop in, try it out. You don't have to put down a credit card. What I recommend folks do is, take a representative sample of something. It could be a transcript of a conversation like this. It could be something you've written. Maybe you have a Google Doc of like a draft of some thoughts you have, something representative of you, your expertise, your content. Add it to Astral, use that to generate a brand voice, and then just apply. We have 5 sample templates just right there waiting for you. Just apply them, and then you'll immediately get it and see the opportunity. And, comment on the YouTube page, comment on LinkedIn. Like, we're here to answer questions. Zach knows I'm like a huge nerd. I'm answering so many emails and comments right now. I love helping people with this stuff. So please get in there, try it out. Let us know what you think.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, and hope you have a great day.
You too.